Hey everyone, this is McKenna Gilmore in class English 1302, section 770 with Professor Felicia Desiadek. I will be presenting on week 4, so the 3rd to the 9th, and I will be doing a project over Dylan Marley Thomas. So Dylan Thomas was a poet born in Swansea, Wales on February 27, 1914. Thomas attended school at the Swansea Grammar School but dropped out at age 16 and supported himself as an actor, reporter, reviewer, scriptwriter, and with various odd jobs. He also served as an aircraft gunner during World War II during 1939 to 1945. But he was not considered active duty due to his bad lungs. I wanted to include this beautiful Bayside picture to give a little connection to where he grew up, and so we can have some personal connection with the poet himself. Dylan Thomas found success in his poem, And Death Shall Have No Dominion, published in 1933 in the New English Weekly, marking his first international publication. The event sent Thomas to England in the summer of 1933 to meet with editors of various English literary magazines. They contacted Thomas in April 1934. At the age of 19, Thomas won the Sunday's Referees Poets' Corner Prize. And to the right, I posted And Death Shall Have No Dominion, the first poem that he was famous for. And this prize entailed the sponsorship of the author's first book. So Thomas moved to London to oversee the publication of his first book, titled 18 Poems, published in 1934. This was followed by the publication of his two books, 25 Poems in 1936 and The Map of Love in 1939. Thereafter, April 4th, 1940, he published his fourth book, Portrait of the Artist as a Young Dog. And I wanted to include this picture because I thought he just looked like a model. So what was in these famous books? 18 Poems draws heavily from the collection of poems he had earlier penned down in his notebooks. 25 Poems. Half of these poems in this book were written down in his teens. The Map of Love contains 16 poems and 20 short stories. Of course, these books are some of the few that he published, but these are the ones that stuck out to me. And I drew mostly that these were from poems from when he was younger, and how he wanted to express himself through these poems, and his way to show to the world was to publish these books. Of course, to be considered a famous poet, you have to deserve some awards. So Dylan Thomas's last collection of collected poems from 1934 to 1952 won the Foyle Poetry Prize, as well as in 1947 he received the Traveling Scholarship from the Society of Authors. There have also been many prizes deemed in his honor, such as the Dylan Thomas Prize, being a leading prize for young writers presented annually in his honor, bringing the international prestige and remuneration of $46,000. One of his most famous poems, and one of my favorites of his, was Do Not Go Gently Into That Good Night. This poem not only paved the way for the vanilla style of poetry, but the true power of the underlying raw emotions for other authors. And on the right, there's an excerpt from Do Not Go Gently Into That Good Night, and I thought it was fitting in the words that were bolded, and the word rage that stuck out so prominently, just to really understand the raw emotion that he wanted to convey in this poem. When I first read Do Not Go Gently Into That Good Night, I loved it. I thought there were many great themes that stuck out to me, but there was one prominent theme that I saw, and that was definitely mortality, and how we should treat life as a gift by holding on to our life with all that we're worth. But the theme of all of Thomas's poetry is the celebration of the divine purpose he saw in all human and natural interactions. The cycle of birth and flowering and death, of love and death, are also found throughout his poems. However, the most prominent theme that I found in this poem would definitely be mortality and how we should treat life as a beautiful gift. When reading this, among the theme of mortality, I also noticed many other themes such as old age and family. When I first read this poem, I saw that he was alluding to his frail and dying father and the son's discovery of what it is like to get closer and closer to the inevitability of death. He is trying to convey to the reader to fight and cling on to their lives like he wishes his father would have. I love the idea behind this and how the speaker was trying to convey the intensity and the power of a family's bond, and how that affected this poem and how the audience also interpreted it. Towards the end of his life, Dylan Thomas knew that he wanted to spend his last time writing. So he wanted to do it in the best place that he knew. So he went to a boathouse so he could find peace and write his poetry. Dylan Thomas died on October 9th, 1953 at the age of 39. He toured the United States 4 times, with his last appearance at the City College of New York. A few days later, after a long night of drinking at Manhattan's White Horse Tavern, Thomas collapsed at the Chelsea Hotel. He died in a New York City hospital not long after. His home has been turned into a museum along with his memorabilia. The image on the right, we get a look into his private boathouse, which has now been turned into the museum, and where we can see where he created some of his last work. Hey everyone, thanks for watching my video and learning along with me.